Hey guys, welcome back to the next part of our series. We're continuing with the snake scene. This is the final part of it. Don't worry, we're not gonna do any more. That's it. We've been doing this for over a week, I think, and we're ready to go into the cinematic render. So here's the result of the render. So you can see it. You probably saw it on the thumbnail, of course. But it's this one right here. Look at the amount of detail that we are able to get inside of the element. Like it's amazing. Like we can get a 4K rendered out of this without a single problem. Now I did notice one thing, and I actually did the test. Where I inverted the mask for the fingerprints, and I think it's a little bit too heavy, so I might go in Substance and change it later on, but now we're just gonna go from here. And the way we're gonna do this is actually very simple. I am gonna create a little bit of a scene here. So I'm gonna delete that plane, create a new one. And I was thinking about how best to present this lamp. I think the best is just to have it use its own light to light the general thing, and then have another secondary light everywhere else to just like help. So I'm gonna go into my skydome light, and I'm gonna turn the intensity back to 0. So right now the only light is this one right here, and I'm actually gonna delete it. And I'm gonna model real quick. I'm gonna grab a cone here. I'm gonna say mesh smooth to model like a little bit of a flame shape, like this thing. I'm gonna say mesh smooth again, and you can see we have this sort of like a torch thing, which I would expect this to be inside of the thing. Now when I give it a little bit more life, we can grab like a vertex here, go into like soft selection, just like push it around a little bit here and there, and we're gonna paint this. So the way we're gonna paint this, let's do another smooth. So mesh smooth, there we go. I'm gonna do a let's do the history. I'm gonna do a UV, and I'm gonna do a cylindrical mapping. Oh, not planar. I mean, planar works fine, actually, because it's just a flat color that we're going to use. I'm going to assign a new material, ARNOLD, AI standard surface. And, well, actually, I'm gonna assign a new material here. Just a Maya, like a Lambert. Because I only want the color. And I'm going to use the color to create the color of the flame. It's just a hacky way to do it. The actual way would be to create, like, an actual flame. I've been doing some research about the particles and stuff. Hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, I can show you some examples. But I don't feel prepared just yet. So I'm gonna go here into the Maya options, and I'm gonna use a ramp. And if we take a look at the flame here, I was looking at some models that we can use. Maybe we'll use that one. I think it's a nice one. So let's go flame. And if we take a look at the flame, like a real flame, it's blue on the lower parts, and then it gets like this very dark or like an orange, right? So I'm gonna go here on this one. We're gonna like a dark blue, and then this one is gonna be like a yellow, like a very bright yellow. We can go even brighter here, like almost like a white or something. It's just to get the general shape of the whole thing, like this. And the reason why I'm doing this is not because we're going to be using this material. I actually just want this ramp. I'm going to call this fire ramp. Now, I am going to assign whatever. We're not even going to use it because we're going to assign an Arnold lights mesh light. This is going to become a mesh light. And in the color of this mesh light, this is where we're going to be plugging in the ramp. So I'm going to go into my outliner. Let's clean this up. And select this light P-cone shape. There we go. And here, if we go into utilities, you're going to have the ramp, or not there. Textures, fire ramp. We just grab this fire ramp, and we're going to plug this into the light P-cone shape. So now the color of the ramp is being used in the cone shape. Let's give it a look. Let's type this real quick. Isolate. And let's go into our shot cam. Select it. There we go. I am actually going to go into the options here, the render options, and I'm going to get rid of the sampling so that we can render faster. And let's see if this works. Okay, so it doesn't work. And why doesn't it work? Because it's super light. The object right now is super light, so we're going to go to the light here. And we're going to, of course, increase the exposure, say like a 10. And there you go. So now you can see that we actually get a little bit of blue there, which shouldn't happen, but we can get away with this. And now there is light coming there. I'm gonna make this light visible. so that we can see the little thing here. And that means that probably on my ramp, it might be a better idea to just change this to like an orange, like a very deep, rich orange. Like this. Probably desaturate it, going to the orange, or maybe even just like delete this guy and keep it like really orange here. I do want to have a little bit redder though, like burnt. There we go. And now we have that thing over there. Like there's actually a light source that's giving us that sort of effect. Now we can still use color temperature, I believe, and make this a warmer, and that's gonna help the overall scene. It's gonna push the flame into the proper direction. I do think that the white there might be affecting us, so let's get rid of it. There we go. That's way better. A little bit exaggerated, so I'm gonna go here and probably desaturate it a little bit, just a little bit on the flame, especially. But that definitely helps a little bit more. There we go. So now we can start thinking about the composition, right, for our scene. So if I hit play right now, I have this very light, or this big light right here, and not much else. It seems like there's another sort of like contribution, although I'm not sure what that might be. Is it this guy? Let's turn this on, which is, of course, is gonna make it look like a lamp. And then I'm gonna go into the intensity or the exposure here. I'm gonna go like really low. Huh, that's weird. Do we have another light? Yes, we do. We have the directional light and the ambient light from the from the first videos. You guys remember? So yeah, let's definitely get rid of those. And look at how nice this looks. Now it definitely looks like a night scene or something. Let's get rid of one. I don't want to get rid of that one just yet. So I'm gonna go here, and let's bring the exposure to like -2, because I do want a little bit of light going into the scene. -3, just a little bit darker. Now on the light itself, on the light from the lamp, I'm trying to see if we can change. There we go. We're gonna reduce the shadow density a little bit, because right now if we got this shadow density, you can see that there's a very like big spread. And if we start decreasing the shadow density, it might go into the non-physical realm where things are not working in the physical way. But it looks very good, so I'm gonna keep it. Probably something like this. There we go. That looks nice. Now, here's the cool thing. Here's where I like to get my creative juices flowing and try to get into a more interesting effect. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm definitely gonna get rid of the camera visibility for the HDR, and now I want to think about the shot. I want to think about the history that I'm gonna be like projecting towards this lamp, right? So the thing I'm thinking about is having a sort of like a close-up shot where the lamp is a little bit like crooked. Okay, like this. It's kind of like buried inside the ground. So we're gonna have some sand on the ground. We'll do a little bit of sand here. Come on. What's going on here? There we go. So it's gonna be like semi-buried on the sand. This guy, of course, I'm gonna move the pivot point of this thing. And this will be like, it will fall, of course, and it would like be like down here or in the front. I'm gonna get rid of the screen rotate, because no one is holding the lamp right now, right? So it will be very weird to have that thing like be there. Now, I think I'm gonna rotate it slightly more. Get it in there. Probably like bring it back a little bit. So a little bit of the lip is like this. Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna grab a couple of more points here and bring them up. So this thing is kind of like sitting on a little mountain of sand. So I'm thinking this is from like you know the mummy movies from like Brendan Fraser from the 90s or 2000s. I'm going for something like that. So yeah, this looks good. So see how this is shining very nicely. Now I want to have one very soft like rim light coming from the top corner, kind of like illuminating the lamp. Imagine if the ruins are just like letting us see, and maybe this lamp is magical because the flame never goes off or something. You know, we can start adding a little bit of history here and there like that. So I'm gonna create a light, area light. Let me go into perspective. I'm gonna have this light coming from the top here, like this. The exposure is gonna be probably high. like a 12. And of course, if we just do this, it's just gonna illuminate this very heavily. We don't want that, so we're gonna lower the spread. So it's more like a beam of light just going there. Now I'm gonna definitely use color temperature and make this like super blue. And we're gonna start lowering the exposure. It's kind of like a moonlight or a moonbeam shining on this thing. Now you can see, and this is where things get tricky, right? Because we did such a great job on the textures, and unfortunately we're not seeing the final result here because the scene, the shot that we're thinking about is not actually helping us with that. And that's totally fine. Don't be intimidated by the fact that you're gonna lose a little bit of the work that you did, because at the end of the day, the most important thing that we need to take into consideration or into account is the shot. Like, the shot needs to look good. If the shot does not look good, then it doesn't really matter how much you worked on your texture. So it's one of the things that I have a little bit of a hard time working with my students. It's like they do great things and they want to show them in a cinematic shot, but they want to like you have a very bright scene where everything is visible, and it's like, no, you need to add a little bit of mystery, a little bit of hidden things here and there. Of course, it doesn't have to be super dark, but you should just like don't be afraid to hide things. You're gonna have your main like shot here anytime you want to show people how the model looks, but the shot in the movie, that's gonna be special. One thing that we definitely need to add is a little bit of depth of field. So I'm gonna go to my camera. We're gonna go to the options here, depth of field, not here, sorry, on the ARNOLD options. We're gonna turn on depth of field, and I'm gonna start bringing the aperture size up, and we're of course gonna need to find the focus. If you want to find the exact focus place, remember you're gonna go into display, heads up display, object details, and then from your shotgun, of course. So we're gonna go panels to selected. Let me make this thing smaller. Just click this guy in 60 units. So the focus distance is going to be 60 units. And now we can start taking a look at this thing. The less aperture, or the more aperture size you have, the harder the blur is going to be on the foreground and on the background. You can see there on the borders of the thing, the objects are just like disappearing, which is looking good, I think. I'm gonna stop this. And let's add a little bit of fog. Fog is always good. So we're gonna go into the render setup here. We're gonna say environment, and we're gonna add an AI fog. So if we render, by default, this is, I think, gonna be a little bit too heavy. Or actually, no, I don't wanna do that one. I have some issues with that one, so I'm gonna break the connection and I'm gonna use a AI, just a standard volume. Let's take a look at how this looks. Hopefully this doesn't crash. No, Maya. As soon as I say the words, it crashed. That's fine. Let's go back. I'm gonna pause real quick while I'll reset up everything. Give me just 1 second. Okay, so we're back. I was able to recreate most of it in the exact same way, and I am using the Sky Dome volume, atmosphere volume. So just back here, we're using the atmosphere volume, and I changed the density to 0.1, which I think is a little bit too much. So I'm gonna go to like 0.005, and let's see how this looks. Yeah, it's a little bit better. So I do want to have a little bit of dust in the environment, but I don't want this to be like super intense. I need to do the depth of field real quick. So let's go here, ARNOLD. We're gonna again turn on the depth of field. The focus distance is 60, and a little bit of aperture size. Especially this is gonna help us with the blur on the back line there. So let's go a little bit heavy there. And one thing that's definitely going to help is if we want to reduce the amount of light. Now, I am using my Sky Dome light now. As you can see, we have a -4 exposure. So I am going to do a little bit of a trick here. And it's just a camera trick to get this like thing to be in the shadows and go like back into space. So very easy trick. So we know that all of this is being affected by the light. So if we were to just like add a plane here and like cover this like this, that automatically is gonna like hide this whole thing. Am I going in the right direction? I think I am. There we go. So we're using this plane to kind of like block some of the light that's going in there, and that's gonna help us with the overall feel. Another thing we can do, which is also perfectly reasonable, if these are ruins, remember what we did with the grenade? I'm just gonna create a little bit of a room here. We're not gonna texture this. We could sculpt it and texture it and do everything, but I really don't want to do it. It's not that I don't want to do it, it's just gonna be more time. And we want to close this project as soon as possible, so I'm just gonna create a little bit of a ruin here, which is gonna be off camera, or at least far enough from the camera that we should be able to see most of it. Let's give it a go now. Yeah, so you can see those guys right there. Those are like walls, which are gonna be far enough. We could also go to the light here, to the light cone. And if we decrease the exposure a little bit, we're gonna keep those things in hidden and out of focus. So I think something like that works. This is very mysterious vibe. Although I do like this. I mean, I'm not like super worried about the walls. I mean, the fact that they're just walls should be more than enough. We can add like a dirt texture or something to hide them. We do need our main light here, so I do want to have my like my moonlight coming from the top. So I'm gonna add Arnold lights, air light, and let's do this light over here. We know we're gonna have a low spread. We're gonna know it's gonna be light, and the exposure is gonna be relatively high, like a 10. Panels, look to selected, and let's take a look. Ooh, that looks very good. Let's go closer. Give me just 1 second, guys. Sorry, I had to take care of a little business back here, but it's working. It's working. I'm ready now, so let's go. So this is what we have. Let's go to the light again, to the area light. Let's keep tweaking it. So I'm gonna lower the spread, because I want this to be like a very, very focused ray of light. Let's increase the exposure. Here's where I can definitely increase the exposure to bring a little bit of the lamp back. Let's go like, there we go. Look at that. We keep a little bit of a shadow here, giving the lamp a chance to shine. And then we have this very nice effect going down here. I forgot to change this thing, so let's move the pivot point there. Lower this. In this case, I'm gonna bring it back like this. Let's stop for a second, and I want to make this again a little bit of story. Story is always good, so I'm just gonna add a couple of cylinders here to represent like some wood beams or something that are covering some of the light going in there. Oop. Control D, Control D, Control D. And thanks to the kind of spread that we have, which should be a very light spread, which, by the way, we can actually make this light lighter as well, or smaller. This is also gonna affect the way this looks. We should be able to get some very nice shadows here. There we go, that's better. Something like this. Now, here's again where we can go into the artistic, let's say, approach. We can have an artistic approach, and we can decide to get rid of some of the elements to give more, let's call it, more importance to other parts, right? So we're gonna break physicality. We're gonna break the way light works, just to give a little bit more emphasis to the lamp. So I'm gonna go into Arnold lights, area light. We're gonna create a small little light here that's just gonna shine on the top of the head right here, just to bring it back into focus, right? Because we definitely want the head to be the main like focus of the whole thing. So see how we can push just a little bit of the head back into perspective. We're definitely gonna have like a very small spread. And I'm gonna make this really small so the shadows are not as intense. It's kind of like giving its own spotlight to the lamp, right? I am gonna use color temperature. Probably I'm gonna make it warm so that we have a little bit of contrast. I am gonna go now to the options here on the fog, and I'm probably gonna increase the attenuation, just so that we don't have as much fog as what we have right now. And that's it. That's the general like thing with this element. So I'm gonna stop the video right here, guys. I am gonna add the sand. We've done this before. I'm just gonna get a tileable texture, and I'm gonna add the sand, and I'm gonna wait for the render to finish because I want to show you a couple of tricks that we can do inside of Photoshop to make this look a little bit more like a cinematography or like a film shot, right? Because usually when we do 3D stuff, it tends to look a little bit too fakey, too CGI. So I want to show you a couple of tricks that we can do to really give it a nice shot. So this is just gonna be a quick jump for you guys, but it's gonna take a little while for me. So here we go. Very well, guys. So I'm gonna stop the render right here, and the reason I'm gonna do this is because it's gonna take a long while. So I'm probably gonna leave this overnight. You're gonna see the final render, of course, in the thumbnail. But I want to show you the process that I'm gonna use. Now, I did a little bit of what's the word? I used a tileable texture here. You can see it's a little bit big, but we're gonna fix this in Photoshop. And I also textured the walls. No! Oh, I messed up. I actually wanted to save that previous shot. So, yeah. I'm debating what to do because I can't leave the OBS open all night waiting for this thing to render. So, let's do it. I'm just gonna stop this right here, which again is super dirty, but it should give us a nice enough thing to work with because everything that we're gonna do is not gonna be on the image. It's gonna be on Photoshop. So I'm gonna save this file. I'm gonna save this as a multi-layer EXR. Very important that we save this as a multi-layer EXR because we're gonna have a little bit more control over the exposure and stuff. And I'm gonna save this as snake lamp EXR. I'm gonna go back here into Photoshop. Let's open it. That's the cover from yesterday. And where is it here? So there we go. So we're gonna have this, and one thing that you're gonna notice as soon as it gets here is that the color might not be the exact color that we had in Maya. And the reason why that happens is because in Maya we're actually seeing a little bit of a color correction. So I'm gonna go into image adjustments, and I'm gonna say exposure, and if we start pushing the gamma correction, I believe up to 0.7 something, we should be able to get closer to the look, but that's fine. I actually want to have this sort of like desaturated look for now, and I want to play around with a little bit of the exposure here. And the reason why OpenEXR or the 32-bit image is so powerful is because we're going to be able to do this sort of change. Now, I'm going to have to do this again with the final image, of course, but this just gives me a basis to work with. So as you can see, we have a little bit of a nice effect pretty much overall. So the thing that I want to add here is I want to add a little bit of bloom. And to add a bloom, I'm actually gonna go back, or in the mode, I'm gonna change back to 16 bits, not merge, and that way we have access to all the filters and stuff. And I am gonna duplicate this guy. I'm gonna do a filter, blur, a Gaussian blur, like a heavy Gaussian blur like this, and then I'm gonna have this as set up as a linear dodge. See that? So that immediately blooms the whole image, and it gives us this very like whimsical, magical feeling to the whole thing. Now, of course, I don't want as much bloom, and I don't want bloom everywhere. So I'm gonna have some sort of, probably about there. I'm gonna add a black mask here, and using a soft brush, soft round brush, we're gonna paint out some of the bloom like this. That way, we're pushing this sort of like God ray effect even more on top of the snake head. Now, remember, all of the noise that we see right now is going to be gone on the final image, but that doesn't mean that we can't do this sort of thing now, which is completely fine. I am going to change the angle though. So I'm gonna change the angle so it's more like a ray like this. And I actually just want to hit the head, and then of course the actual like lamp here is gonna glow a little bit more. Then I'm gonna add our typical like what's the word? Our vignette. So I'm gonna grab like a dark color here, very dark, like this. Go here, and then with an eraser, we can just, again, usually you want to have like big things, big erasers, big elements, so that this is a little bit more intense. And I like to change this layer to like an overlay, and lower this so that the colors are not like completely black, and just see a little bit of a gradient like this. Now I'm going to show you one very interesting little trick, and it might not look great on this one because it's not as clean, and the image is not as clean as I would like it to be. But I'm going to grab the original image, I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to actually lock and hide this one in case I need a copy. And this one, I'm going to go to the channels, and I'm going to do something called Chromatic Aberration. Now, Chromatic Aberration is one of those things that photography normally has, and it makes things look more real. So chromatic aberration is when the pixels of an image do not match perfectly. It's this sort of effect. Now, this is completely exaggerated, but usually photographs have a little bit of chromatic aberration every now and then, especially if the lens is not as new or is not as crisp, and it gives this very like realistic feel to the images. So one very quick way to do it is I'm just gonna go here into the red channel. Grab all of the pixels from the red channel, and with my V key, just move them 1 pixel to the left. And then I'm gonna do the same for the blue channel. I'm gonna move it 1 pixel to the right. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna create a little bit of chromatic aberration. See that? So now the pixels are not perfectly matching. I think the blue might have been a little bit too much. So I'm just gonna bring it back, and I'm gonna grab the red, bring it 1 pixel back. I think it went 2 pixels. And there we go. I mean, as you can see now, pixels are not matching exactly where they're supposed to be matching, and that's gonna give us a little bit of a different. Sorry, it's gonna give us a little bit of a different feel in the whole image, which is of course gonna add to the overall scene. Then dust. Dust is one of those things, not on the image itself, but on the composition. So I'm gonna go to my camera effects here. Oh my god. Sorry about that. And I'm gonna see if we have a little bit of like dust and stuff. I don't want to use a lens flare right now. I think I just want to do like a dust. So this sort of like fairy dust works good. So I'm just gonna grab this guy, bring it into my image, make it smaller. It's a little bit too fairy-ish. Let's see how this looks. And this is gonna of course go into our like a lighting. There we go. That looks a little bit better, because I just want a few of them. I don't want this many. Let's rasterize this layer, and I'm just gonna lower the opacity, so I have a little bit of a detail there, like some dust things going into the camera. We could add like scratches and stuff. I don't think this image in particular would benefit from it. A little bit of smoke might not be a bad idea. Let's give it a shot. So let's just grab this. And of course, a very low opacity. Not particularly fond of it, to be honest. We can try some sort of like blending mode. I mean, we can maybe like go here and do a little bit of a blur. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and just keep it like kind of low. That could help. There's another one that usually works, which is modifying the whole image or distorting the whole image. I don't think it's gonna work right here. So what I am gonna do is I'm gonna grab this image right here. I'm gonna say filter, sharpen. Sharpen, again, 3D tends to make things a little bit smooth. So I'm just gonna do a smart sharpen, and of course we're not gonna see it in this one because it's super dirty. But if we were to sharpen this a little bit, we're gonna get a little bit of a better result, crisper result. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I personally, and this is, some people criticize me for this, and it's totally fine. This is just my personal opinion. I like to add the letterboxes, even to like a full HD image. I just think it makes it look like cleaner, like tighter, right? Like a frame from a storyboard from a movie. So I personally like it. If you guys don't like it, that's fine. But I personally like using those things. I also use sometimes that to add my information and stuff. But there you go. Like, this is the thing. Again, you're gonna see the full, like, actual high resolution element on the cover of the thumbnail. However, I'm gonna have to wait until the render is over. It's gonna take a couple of hours, and I wanna keep everything in the same video. So yeah, that's it, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think about this whole project. It was a full week project. Hopefully you guys liked it. Hopefully you learned a lot. I learned a lot as well. Every time we do this kind of things, you always learn a little bit more. And yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know what you want to see next. What else would you like to me to tackle? And I'll be happy to do so. So that's it for today. Leave us a like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you back tomorrow. Bye-bye.